On July 7th, Uranus entered Gemini for the first time in 84 years, and today I would like to talk to you all about this massive transit once again and how this really is a portal for spiritual rewiring, global reconnection, spiritual transformation, and global transformation. Now, today I wanted to make another chat, if you will, because I really want all of your takes. I want as many comments as possible involving your perspective on the world, the collective transformation involving the planet Uranus, the zodiac sign Gemini, and what you think this is going to bring us all. I love the community that we built here, and I think that the more voices that are shared involving astrology, involving spiritual themes, spirituality, your experience, even stuff going on in the world, no matter how controversial, even though I'm not a controversial type of astrologer here on YouTube, and I definitely do my best to not talk negatively about potentials that could go on in the world, even though many of you know I shoot you straight all the time. But today we need to talk about this transit a little bit more because honestly, just from watching a little bit of news over the last couple of days, it's like amazing to see some things already starting to reveal itself involving this very powerful Uranian and Gemini moment in time. Now, some of the themes that I always have brought up involving Uranus and Gemini is, of course, the American influence in global war. That is something I do not want to touch today because, I mean, God knows every other astrologer out there has talked about Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War II, and how these themes of America being involved in global conflict, global reordering, or just anything that involves America, sort of like getting involved, seems to be what Uranus and Gemini is all about. And it's, of course, in the birth chart of the United States, just as Jupiter in Cancer is, I believe. I'm pretty sure. Don't get me, don't crucify me because I'm not like totally obsessed with like United States astrology, but I'm pretty sure Jupiter in Cancer is also in the United States birth chart. So we are really primed and ready for America to kind of, be pulling some wild shit around the world, I guess you can say. But at the same time, which is nothing new, obviously. But yeah, I mean, we could very much be setting ourselves up or just generally speaking, like watching something unfold on the world stage that involves America, that involves the current administration and just everything else going on in the world, guys. I don't want to just totally single out America, but I mean, look at what's going on in the world. There is so much conflict. There is so much potential for restructuring and world ordering. NATO has been trying to restructure itself in one way, shape, or form because no one knew what America would be doing just after Trump got elected, for example, because there's been a lot of shakeups in what America should do or what America shouldn't do or whatever the case may be. Now, all that stuff aside, okay, I want to go down a little bit more of a spiritual rabbit hole with you. And when I say rabbit hole, I'm not talking about conspiracy stuff. I'm talking about real life spiritual implications this will have on us all. Real life spiritual implications and manifestations that could be happening right in front of our very eyes involving our own experience. And of course, things that we see happening in the world that could be affecting us on a very psychic, psycho-spiritual level. Now, one thing that I've constantly talked about here in my Uranus and Gemini videos is the fact that we're going to be dealing with a lot of breaking free of mental conditioning, mental patterns. So I think, again, we look at Gemini as a very mental zodiac sign. We are discussing themes around communication, okay? This is a mental activity. This is intellect. This is the duality of the world, us and other. And curiosity, networks, language, stuff like this. This is very Gemini stuff. We are talking about things that are all mental in nature, the mental constructs of our life and the way that things are perceived. This is where consciousness meets the world. This is where consciousness meets duality. Okay, and I'm not going to go down a philosophical rabbit hole or a spiritual rabbit hole involving the philosophy of non-duality and this oneness and like how are we really experiencing reality as it is. And again, that's kind of more of like a Buddhist thing. But again, when we deal with Uranus and Gemini, we are discussing how are we going to be interfacing further with the duality of all things. We are discussing how are we going to be splitting things up, and how are we going to be communicating with things that are either uncomfortable for us or comfortable for us, because there's going to be a lot of things we're going to want to interface with, I believe, on a spiritual level, on a mental level, that can bring us joy, happiness, reconnection, things like that. Because Uranus and in Gemini is going to bring those sudden bonds, those sudden communications that start to form within your reality, within your family structure, within your daily life, whatever that looks like. You know, if you have Gemini in the fourth house, I mean, there could be insane spiritual rewirings around how you approach your family, how you approach even discussing deeper spiritual subjects, okay? Because the fourth house to me is also a very spiritual house. We're talking about that private place within ourselves in the fourth house, the foundation of who we are. And Gemini down there can very much bring spiritual reconnection and rewiring around some fundamental beliefs that we have about ourselves. And of course, maybe things that involve family and our ancestry, etc. Or maybe just our home environments. So Gemini and Uranus, again, sudden change around the way we dialogue, the way we form networks, our curiosities about things. And curiosity very much takes us into a realm of duality because we are taking in a new perspective, a new curiosity, right? A new thing, and we are going to be in a process of processing. So dealing with Uranus and Gemini is this sudden shift of merging the higher mind with the lower mind. And I think that's something we need to understand more deeply about Uranus and Gemini. Uranus can be considered the higher mind. All the outer planets are spiritual in nature, very ethereal, okay? Because we can't see them with the naked eye. They are these shape-shifting forces of the collective world, and also very profound shifts in our own personal lives when they enter zodiac signs for very long periods. Uranus will stay in Gemini for 8 pushing 9 years. So Uranus is that higher mind, just like Neptune has an aspect of a higher mind, and same with Pluto. Okay, when I say the word mind, I'm not necessarily discussing that in the nature of discussing Gemini as an aspect of the mind, because again, mental construct, mental energies, we're talking about the mind. But the higher mind is again something a little bit more ethereal, something a little bit more profound, something that will hit us in a deeper way and really shake us up at the core. So Uranus to me is this higher mind. And when we talk about Gemini, we're talking about the lower mind. And I'm not saying that with any disrespect to Gemini heavy energy people out there. I'm a Gemini moon, so whenever I make fun of Geminis, please just know that I'm poking fun at this guy right here as well. But Uranus is this higher mind in this collective awakening that we are going to be seeing around the world, and also the awakening that we will be experiencing within the Gemini part of your life, the Aquarius part of your life, because Uranus is immediately trining right now Pluto in Aquarius, and also the sextiles that are now being given to Saturn and Neptune in Aries, okay, which are all, I think, they're about to, Neptune's already retrograde, Saturn will be retrograde very, very shortly. But this awakening of the mind of the collective, this higher mind merging with the lower mind for this transformations that we have never witnessed before in our own life and of course on the world stage. Now, some things I want to talk to you guys today about are, again, spiritual transformation themes and just a few more talking points on collective and global transformations. And I promise you, I'm not going down a war rabbit hole because, again, like I said earlier, So many astrologers talk about the war stuff when it comes to Uranus and Gemini. I really want to get a little bit deeper if I can, and maybe that's not the right word to use, but a little bit more, maybe a little bit more of a unique perspective on certain things. And maybe we can even talk a little bit more about artificial intelligence. I mean, I know that's something a lot of astrologers also point to when they discuss this moment with Uranus going into Gemini, and of course the trines to Pluto in Aquarius, which really is what blew up this AI movement. I mean, the last 3 years of Pluto dipping back into Capricorn, going into Aquarius, this has been that transformational power intensified force of the AI movement. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this play out in a much more accelerated way over the next couple of years. But I guess we can really start asking ourselves, like, is there any way we can use this stuff to our benefit, or or is this all doom and gloom? Because a lot of people, I mean, again, I think everything is on a scale of gray. Nothing is so black and white. I don't, especially when we're talking about the revolution and the evolution of something that we don't totally know the outcome of yet. It's very easy to look at something that's been around for a long time and paint it as evil or good, beneficial or negative. But when we talk about something as fresh and new as something like AI or any other new technology or anything else that could be coming into the world, even back in the day with the Industrial Revolution, like things like the world radically changed with the Industrial Revolution, and humans just sort of advanced our world in many, many beautiful ways because of it. But also at the same time, we have destroyed the climate, for example. So is it possible that the modern era of technology, artificial intelligence, could, yes, have a lot of negative effects, but at the same time, could it be a solution to clean up some of the problems and shit that the original Industrial Revolution has caused? So these are questions we're going to have to ask ourselves, and this is what we're going to have to navigate during Uranus and Gemini, okay? And this is really going to awaken the mind, okay? This is going to awaken our perspectives and awaken our curiosities and questions around things. And I think when it comes to this mental conditioning we've all been programmed to believe in many facets of our life, Uranus and Gemini is going to come in like this wrecking ball over the next couple of years as it's providing these trines to Pluto and the sextiles to Saturn and Neptune over the next 12, 13, 14 months, because that's when those sextiles are going to be the most strong. Because once we get to next summer, 2026, into late summer 2026, Saturn will be like moving on pretty aggressively towards the middle degrees of Aries, and Uranus's influence will be less and less and less for Saturn, like we've talked about many, many times here on the channel. So before I begin, my friends, or before I continue rather, I would just like to say, if you're enjoying this video and you would like to subscribe to the channel, it would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe, hit the like button, leave comments. Like I said earlier in this video, it would be amazing if you could comment and leave some of your thoughts and theories and perspectives on some of this stuff, because your theories and your experience and your perspectives really matter, and I would just love to get your takes on all of that. So yeah, without further ado, I don't really have anything else to say, I don't think, aside from if you'd like to connect with me one-on-one, check out some links down below. I do have opportunities for readings for the summer, so if you'd like to connect with me in any way, shape, or form, don't be shy, click on some links down below. But yeah, my friends, let's continue on talking about this epic transit just a little bit further, and then I promise I probably will shut up involving talking about Uranus and Gemini until the next big conversation is really, really needed to be had. All right, my friends, now moving on a little bit from talking about some of that collective AI stuff, I want to first begin by talking a little bit more on the spiritual transformation aspects of this transit and how this really is a moment for us to be shattering beliefs that we once held and understanding the difference between truth and propaganda. And I'm talking about that even in our own life. Like, what are things going on in your life that you are really realizing are false. Okay? What are you seeing clearly for the first time? Because I think truth and getting to the heart of truth and how we are going to be breaking free of things that are no longer true for us, this is a massive trigger for Uranus entering Gemini in the first decan of Gemini, obviously, which is ruled by Jupiter, which of course is about truth and expanding philosophy and belief and just being very curious about the heart of something that is true. And the tarot card that is associated with the first decan of Gemini is the Eight of Swords, which I've discussed many, many times, and how the imagery of the Eight of Swords is very much about mental liberation, being bound with a blindfold on. And really the task of this card is to see that we are really imprisoning ourselves, or we are imprisoned on certain things, or we are imprisoned in certain things in our life that really need to be liberated mentally. So at any moment, you could take that blindfold off. At any moment, you can walk right past those swords. At any moment, you can untie the rope or whatever it is that's wrapped around you. So we are definitely discussing breaking free of mental conditioning, shattering dogmatic belief systems that we held for so long, truth versus propaganda. It is a time for liberating ourselves, my friends. This is also a time where I think telepathy and nonverbal communication is something we will see very, very active in the Gemini part of our life. And of course, maybe the Aquarius part of your life and Aries part of your life, where all of those houses and themes of life are being triggered by Uranus. And Uranus in Gemini, I think, is going to be this psychic explosion in all of our lives that will maybe bring us to these truths that we need to begin to adopt and really move forward on, so we can awaken the higher mind within this very lower mind energy that all of us seem to be swimming in. Or in the Gemini part of your life, you know, maybe there is an aspect of the lower mind that is always kind of present there, and that part of your life probably needs a little bit more of the doses of the higher mind. Okay. So Uranus is going to bring in those lightning bolts of truth, of intuitive insights, psychic downloads. And again, I'm not trying to get like, too woo-woo on you guys, but I know like it's not woo-woo at all. I mean, many of you guys are very spiritually connected and you understand what I'm talking about. I've been getting a lot more psychic, I mean, to be quite frank, in my life. And I know that Uranus and Gemini being in my 8th house as well, where my moon is, like this is going to be a really powerful time, I think, for just getting further into the heart of truth and psychic activity and being able to connect just more deeply to things. Now, the exploration of energetic communication, this is massive, I think, for Uranus and Gemini, and dealing with a rise of awareness and just things in this world, things in this life that will become more apparent than they ever have before. So I think that is why we are seeing such lightning bolt movements as well around the world of people finding out things very, very quickly. I think people who voted for Donald Trump, for example, are slowly or very fast now finding out how much of a fraud he actually is. And again, I'm someone who's been an independent his whole life, but I mean, you would have to be so blind to not see the con that this entire reality show has brought us in the world. And like, I think more and more people are open to that. I think more and more people are seeing how messed up all politics are, guys. And that's the whole thing. I'm not picking one side or another when I talk like this, okay? We're all, the entire world is in a place where this restructuring and reordering and this awakening of the higher mind merging with the lower mind is becoming more and more clear and apparent every day. And social media, coming back to AI, and just stuff like that. This is what's allowing at lightning speed the truth and propaganda to be constantly dancing with each other. And more we have the opportunity now for truth to be revealed just as much as we have propaganda to be revealed. So I think, to be quite honest, we are entering an era where I think we can see more truth than propaganda, but this is still a really long road ahead involving how this actually goes about structuring itself. So communication will be moving at lightning speed. New forms of communication will be coming online. We will be communicating with deeper parts of ourselves and potentially the spirit world individually as people. Okay, I think all of us, if we meditated deep enough, if we actually adopted a spiritual practice that can open us up to further guidance, we would be able to receive it at lightning speed. I do believe we are on the precipice of mass awakenings that allow us to see deeper into the heart of truth, and that includes the truth of spiritual understanding. Spiritual transformation, I think, will be happening all over the world. Religions may or may not change. I think having Pope Leo come in was a good type of pope, if you will, compared to any of the other types of popes that would have been maybe more conservative. And I'm not saying Pope Leo is not a conservative kind of guy, but what I'm saying is that I think every pope has to choose a motto, I think it's called, kind of like, a motto, I believe. And look into this if you don't know what I'm talking about. But when I heard what his motto, quote unquote, is for his papacy, it's actually very non-dual in nature. It sounded very Buddhist, if you ask me, very like oneness of God, how we are all one with the sort, like something wild, like with this very oneness, like literally the word oneness, I believe, is even in his motto. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, like I think the Pope even got a download, because he's very open to, again, I think a wider lens of what Christianity possibly could be. But the dogma is still very alive and well, but I do feel more and more people potentially in the Christian faith could be coming more into an acceptance of like a more oneness perspective. And I think with this new world, this Uranus and Gemini energy, like we could be talking about reshaping and restructuring. Again, Neptune and Saturn and Aries, we could be talking about that emperor energy that rules Aries. Okay. Even though I would relate maybe more of a Pope energy to the Hierophant, but the Emperor is still very alive and well. And Pope Leo got elected just as Neptune entered Aries. Okay. And we could look at Neptune as that spiritual force of authority in Aries, for example. So I think when we talk about like the rapid downloads of the higher mind merging with the lower mind, we can see that integrating in all spiritual systems and spiritual thought. And I think this is going to be a massive movement involving how we come to the world, spiritually speaking. So again, breaking this mental pattern and conditioning of how things have always been. This is a really powerful decade, I think, ahead, while Uranus will be in Gemini for close to a decade, where we will see more transformations in a spiritual sense on the way we show up to spiritual practice, spiritual faith. Now, on the world stage, global communication revolutions are bound to happen. They are already happening right now. Explosive growth in AI and all forms of technology is the flavor. And this is something I don't have to share with you. And I would love to hear your thoughts on artificial intelligence, my friends, because I have a love-hate relationship to it. I think as a Gemini moon who loves to learn, loves to get things very quickly, to integrate as fast as possible on an intellectual level, this is a brilliant thing. But at the same time, I recognize the soul sucking that it possibly can do. And I think that we need to really have these hard conversations, of course. But I do think this is accelerating the global awakening, spiritually speaking. I do think artificial intelligence can bring about fast tracking for spiritual awakening, if you ask me. The explosive growth in AI, I think, will disrupt the conventional educational systems and be able to wire us and plug us in faster to things, whether positive or negative. And I think this is not news to any of us. I mean, look at what you're watching this video on. Are you on your smartphone right now? Are you on your tablet, your iPad, your computer? I mean, this is all AI at this moment in time. The algorithm gave you my video, if you're new to the channel, this video because of artificial intelligence, because of it learning more about what you like. And this could be both a positive and negative thing, of course, because if you're going down a negative rabbit hole of things, you will be fed that negative stuff. So I think when we talk about this Uranus and Gemini moment, we could talk about, okay, well, what do we need to do to merge this massive awakening of AI in our lives, merging with our psychology in our own spiritual life? How can we use this to our benefit? How can we help other people understand the pros and the cons of this stuff? But this is really a realm of the truth seekers, okay, versus disinformation as well. So again, talking about getting to the heart of truth faster and getting to the heart of falsehoods faster. But all of this is still in the realm of communication and how this can be affecting the world and how we could be awakening to this stuff and how this could be further accelerating spiritual awakening and collective awakening, political awakening, cultural awakening, everything. So this is a conversation that will be ongoing, my friends. But the rise of education and conscious learning will also be part of this. Because don't get it twisted, artificial intelligence can be beneficial if we want it to be. And that's the whole thing. It's the if we want it to be. Because we as human beings have the will and power to shape things in this world. Just like we had the will and power to create artificial intelligence. It is up to us to make the conscious choices in our life on how we can direct all of what Uranus and Gemini would like to bring. Okay, because these transits are not going anywhere and they are meant to evolve humanity and, yes, disappear parts of old versions of humanity. And that is just the way history has always been. And I'm speaking from a place where I'm not necessarily pro-AI or anti-AI. I just think if we're going to merge and progress the world and ourselves spiritually and psychologically, we have to take what has been given, and we have to see how we can use this for its highest good. There is the potential for artificial intelligence to clean up the climate problems of the world and to create technologies that can advance us. It is really just up to the old world to get killed off, though, first. And I think that's where this political moment in the world is very, very alive and well. We're at a crossroads, okay? Do we continue down a road of the same old political powers and collective powers, or do we birth new ones? Do we need more social systems in the world involving government because people are struggling and starving out there because of the old world's greed and corruption? Or are we going to keep going down the road of greed and corruption and continuing to wipe out possibly classes of people that will just further be starving and further have no opportunity and hope in their lives and needing 3-4 jobs in order to buy a can of soup, for example? So this is a moment in time where we have to ask ourselves, what can we do to evolve the collective awakening and our own spiritual awakenings? And I think education and conscious learning will open up the doors for that. I think the digital world and the digital revolution can be very helpful for a lot of people if they embrace it, if they go on potentially social media and share from their heart and share from their experiences. We live in a golden era of social media and artificial intelligence, so we can use this to express consciousness, to express good and spirituality, and again, holistic things, and just anything someone really cares about. And I think that's really important to note, that we can use technology to shape the world to be better. And then we can learn how to properly integrate with it, because I don't think it's going anywhere, and we have to get real with that. But this is going to bring about ethical questions like transhumanism and how far does humanity integrate with technology, because it's a slippery slope, as many of you know. And this is going to be affecting the psyches of us all and the spiritual questions that we all have. Some people are going to walk away further from spirituality and spiritual curiosities because learning and the absorption of information at lightning speed will be so dominant. But Uranus and Gemini along with Neptune and Aries and Pluto and Aquarius, are going to be duking it out and sharing information with each other in harmonious ways by trines and sextiles. And we're given a massive opportunity to work with this. And I think after the next 5 to 6, 7, 8 years, we are going to know where humanity stands in a really, really big way, involving all of this stuff. But I think for the time being, we need to get more still so we can think properly and more clearly through these things, and we can understand possibly clearer the ethics around all of this. Because getting clear on the ethics is really where we make those decisions on whether we're going to make what the world is becoming our friend or our foe. So, yeah, my friends, I think one of the biggest takeaways we can say here is breaking free from the mental patternings that we've been having, in our life. And how are we going to break free in, again, that 8 of Swords type of way? How are we going to break free from everything we've ever known and embrace possibly what is to come? Because I think we have to start embracing and accepting while navigating change. And I'm not saying accept the horror that, like, for example, technology could bring the world and artificial intelligence could bring the world, and just bowing and just bending over. You know what I mean? I'm talking about, like, how can we learn to break free of the way things always were, so we can begin to integrate in a way where it doesn't fry our nervous systems out, where it doesn't totally destroy our worldview. We have to start integrating with what the new world is going to ask from us rather. And in our own life, we have to learn to break free from whatever the Gemini part of your life has been always all about. You have to learn in the Aries part of your life that there's going to be a radical awakening and shift there. And are you going to hold on to an old version of yourself there? The Aquarius part of your life, what's going on there where Pluto is? Or do you want to hold on to an old version of yourself there? Because Uranus is going to come in. Uranus is already in Gemini. Just pay attention from this point forward in your life, because the sudden shifts are going to be so noticeable, and they'll be even more noticeable next year, April 2026 and beyond, when Uranus finally gets back into Gemini after its brief retrograde in Taurus. Because holding on to the past is not what's going to help you. Moving forward is. So we have to all come up with our own ways of dealing with that and navigating that. And I hope I can be a voice and someone that helps you through that as well. The further that we navigate astrology and the spiritual dimensions of all that's happening right now. So, yeah, my friends, that's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this additional Uranus and Gemini video. And yeah, if you did, let me know. If you didn't, let me know too. And yeah, that's all I have for you today, my friends. I will see you in the next video.